All right, Benny, so how long have you been doing Sydney to Darwin and vice versa?
It's, at a guess, probably 7 or 8 years now, Wade.
That's just normal for you, I guess, but that blows my mind. That is an enormous amount of travelling.
It is, but we did a lot of racing early in the piece. As early as I could in my racing career, we did World Series and bits and pieces like that. And I found that once I come back to Sydney Speedway or Parramatta Raceway back then, I enjoyed the track so much that I couldn't stop coming back.
That seems like a long time ago, World Series sprint cars in the Century 21 car.
It does. It feels like a lifetime ago too. It was a good experience and good fun, and I enjoyed going to a lot of the racetracks that we did, and I gained a lot of experience, and I made some good friends, and I had the pleasure of working with Moth, who's now one of my best friends, and he obviously was a big influence on my career at that stage and got me racing and the car pointing in the right direction for me.
I look at someone like Jackson Delamont, who's just come off a year of his rookie year on World Series, and watching him race the other night, he's improved so much by just having that intensive competition on different places.
Yeah, most definitely. Jackson is quite a talented kid, and what World Series does for kids like that at such a young age, they come back to their local track and they're really competitive.
Why do you do this?
Why? Because I love the sport. That's pretty much it. I've tried giving up racing and I just haven't been able to do it as yet.
Does it work out that because of the way that the Darwin summer and the mainland summer sort of dovetail, that you could even think about doing this? Because do you race at home?
I try to do a few races each year back at home. I like to support my local track. That was where I first raced and where I learned to race, and I always look forward to going back to my home track and trying to do a few races each year if I can. It doesn't always work out that way, but I'm fortunate enough next year I get to drive a car for Peter McIver, which is going to make it fairly easy. We get a full season in there doing that, and yeah, so I try to always get a few races in at home.
Your little boy races, I should say little, it's getting bigger and bigger. Is his future going to be what you're doing?
Well, he's down. I hope so. If I can afford it, and he wants to do it, most definitely. He's at an age now where I've got him down here with me so that he can watch more races. I look at a lot of people's sons, like Max's sons, Gary Rush's son. They spend a lot of time around racing, and they hop into a sprint car, and it's second nature to them. They know pretty much what to do, and they do a good job fairly early in their racing.
Absolutely. Does anything in racing scare you, Benny?
Only the cost. The cost it scares me a lot. For sure, don't want to go broke doing it, but that's about the only thing.
You're very much a confidence racer, I think. When your confidence is up, you're pretty well bulletproof. When your confidence is down, it's a very hard game to stay mentally upbeat, isn't it?
Yeah, I think physically it is a big part, but mentally in racing is also a really big part of it. And if things aren't going right, it's really hard to run well on the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about how your weekend works in terms of when do you leave Darwin, when do you get back to Darwin, what happens in the middle?
Well, I leave on a Thursday night, sort of midnight. I get to the Sydney 6:30 on a Friday morning. Normally hop on a train and catch a train to Pick and Payless factory where our race shop is, and do a day's maintenance and hang out with my crew chief JB, which is always fun. Get everything ready. Saturday morning go back and finish off what we're doing, load up, go and have lunch with my crew guys and spend a bit of time with them. Come down and get a night's racing in, hopefully all goes well, and then hop back on a plane on Sunday and go home.
I remember your first ever race with us at World Series was in Adelaide. It had to be 50 degrees, the track was as black as 2 a.m. and you spent most of the night chasing your tail, facing the wrong direction. The next night you went to Murray Bridge and I think you won a heat race. You just got to grips with it. Was it as tough down in the southern part of Australia as you thought it would be?
Every bit as tough as what I thought it would be. I knew going to race World Series wasn't going to be easy, and it definitely wasn't. I'm not sure we ever got to a point in that stint of racing where we were what competitive, but I feel like the experience that I gained going to all the different tracks, doing the amount of racing, I did a season for me racing in about a week and a bit, so that was the experience that we gained, that obviously helped. And then we come back and did World Series the year after, and I think we got a taste of it the first year. The second year we obviously contracted, and then the third year, once we had Moth there, it wasn't successful, but we got some decent results. And towards the end of that season, I felt like we could go to a racetrack and be competitive on some nights, not every night, but some nights.
Do you relate to the struggles of some of these kids that would be having that sort of roll down to this place where it's just so brutally competitive?
Oh, most definitely. It's Parramatta, I think, or Sydney Speedway at the moment is the toughest racing in the country, apart from maybe the Classic or somewhere like that. And I've been there. I went to many World Series races and didn't make the show and had to watch the feature races. And it's disappointing and it's almost heartbreaking when you're down there to do a race and you have to watch them. But you got to keep soldiering along pretty much. And if you really want to do it, then keep going. And I'm sure eventually, after you've done your apprenticeship as such in a sprint car, then you start making the shows and it becomes a lot more enjoyable.
Where does this racing thing come from in your family?
Oh yeah, obviously my dad raced midgets back in the early 80s in Darwin, and midgets back then were obviously a very low budget deal. He was obviously didn't have much of a budget, so he raced while he could and then gave it up for a few years before. That was probably more when I was like 8 or 9. We didn't have too much to do with Speedway after that. We used to go and watch it all the time, obviously, in Darwin, and then they started a class up in Darwin with dirt carts on a race night, and a good friend of my dad's and ours, Dean Gebbett from Advanced Air Conditioning, he turned up one day with a dirt cart for me to race, so that was pretty special, and that was where it all kicked off for me, I guess.
Wow, so he's to blame.
Yeah, and he helped push me through into sprint cars as well. He was very involved. Him and my dad bought a sprint car together in the early stages, just a 360, and then he's been obviously a big supporter of mine right through my racing career up until now.
So finish this sentence for me, Ben. I race because...
I love it.